special. This is a special episode. This is the Veterans Day, and we got Reverend 20 Piece on the line. How you doing, Rev?
Hey man, doing good. Appreciate
Dude,
you reaching out and having me on the stream.
yeah. What do you guys? What do you say? Like Happy Veterans Day? What do people say on? You got to teach me how to be an American here. Coming back.
I mean, as far as the Happy Veterans Day stuff, I do kind of get those things. I mean, I am a vet. I'm still actually currently serving in the Army Reserve, and I'm almost done with my career. We kind of talked about this live and in person back about a year and a half ago now, back in Austin. But I think some people say Happy Veterans Day, and that's it's. I don't know if it's necessarily a happy day for a lot of veterans, but it's a good day of remembrance. I kind of look at it that way, and celebrate fellow veterans and their careers, accomplishments, and also to mainly a day of remembrance. I have family members who are veterans, and I actually I do have a YouTube channel. It's not very big, but I do a Veterans Day stream on my channel every day too, just to kind of give back to the community and get people on. They share their stories, things like that, So that's kind of how I view it.
Hey.
So,
Okay. Well, Happy Veterans Day there.
yeah, right on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And to anybody out there, I there's a lot of guys on Ronin Man who are not in the U.S., have never been to the U.S., and
Yeah.
not interested in the U.S. So I think the thing that people know is it's like just a time of gratitude for people that sacrificed. Because a lot of people died, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's the bottom line. Is and it's men, right? 99. I think it's 99% of military deaths in the United States are men.
It's up there. It's went up. I don't know the exact statistics. It's probably something I should know,
I
but
looked
it's a
it
little
up.
bit.
I looked it
Yeah.
up. I think it's either 99 or 98. It's of course it's growing because you have some women now in the military, but it's still the deaths. It's when you count all the wars of history together, it's like right up there with the 99, 98.
Definitely. Yeah. It's even if it was 90%, which I know it's higher than that. It's still by far the vast majority of the deaths are men. You're correct.
I want equality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's we got to
Yeah.
fight for equality on that one. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's that's a whole topic. We didn't even just get into that, but pre starting the recording, but the more women, more combat roles are being opened up to women. But even in the past, I would say from what I've seen so far, there's still very few women who are in actual frontline combat units. Most of the women I see from my experience in the military currently are in like support units, support companies, things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, I'm in a support company right now myself, but but you can't, but by the nature of kind of today's war though, being that frontline shift pretty, there's a lot of stuff like in Iraq and Afghanistan, there wasn't really a front line. So you can get caught up in some bullshit, even in like a support company, with IEDs and insurgencies and things like that. So, or even like today in Ukraine with an artillery war, you might be hit with some shells out of nowhere. So yeah, it's I don't know.
Sure.
It is what it is. When you sign up, anyone who signs up for whatever job in the military knows that there is a potential for the highest consequences.
Absolutely. You could be doing the telephone operator, and like, yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. But I don't think women they'll never catch up because of the nature of war, like you were saying, right? Like in Vietnam, they were going out every night, right? And
Yeah,
we just don't do that as much. It's not the same. Wars are much more distant these days with drones and everything. So
yeah, the drones and the missiles, and like we had discussed offline prior to the recording, there's that whole cyber aspect to it now, which is huge. And I'm not I just want to preface this by saying I am not a subject matter expert in the cyber stuff, but I have worked with military intelligence units and psyop units. I do have some experience with them. Most of my background is in the maintenance and logistics fields, supply and transportation, things like that. So support role. But having worked with MI units and psyop, I got to see behind the curtain, so to speak, on some of that stuff. And psyop especially is really using a lot of those apps and Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and all of that stuff to persuade, change, and influence the battle space. So change people's minds, you know?
Well, there's so many aspects of when it
Yeah.
comes to. I totally agree. I think that the biggest. Well, I think there's a couple. There's a couple of issues that really on my mind. Why I wanted to do this episode in particular, and why, I was thinking it'd be good to have you on. Is I just feel like there has been. Now, of course, I'm not an expert. I've been on more military bases. You'd be surprised because I did so much work in Japan. I was on pretty much almost all the bases except for Misawa, a couple of ones I didn't get to, just for various reasons. I'd be on the bases and helping the guys on the base because I volunteered at the drug rehab and alcohol rehab centers, and I'd go down there and speak to the guys all the time and became friends with them.
Yeah.
And I went down every week, every Friday night. I'd be down there at Yokosuka base, and we did our meeting. And we did. It wasn't really. It was more like kind of an outreach thing than anything, And through that, I just became friends with the guys, and ended up getting invited on a lot of aircraft carriers, destroyers, just various things, And I got into. I got an insight into like the mindset of the guys in the military because I got so many friends now. They're retired too, and the struggles everybody has after they retire, and just the internal struggles, because people are sharing. When people are coming off, let's say, drugs and alcohol, they get real honest, and they'll tell you, I don't want to kill people. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like I don't feel comfortable in the military, and stuff that they wouldn't usually talk about, they talk about. So I really got a pretty good idea of like the mindset of guys in the military. I'm always shocked too how young everybody is too,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just so shocked when I go on the bases, Somehow, when you're a kid, you see the military guys and they look like such men, You're like, you're like, damn, these guys are old.
Yeah.
Now I go on the base, I'll be 58 in January, right? So, and I look at the guys, and it's like I was on what was it? When I was with Ray Stingray, he went to what was it? Not West Point. He went to the other one. What's the other big one? The other famous school, military school. Not West Point. What was it? Anyway, we went on that campus.
Did you go to the Naval Academy?
Yeah. What's it called? What's it? What's the name?
Man, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I mean, for the Army, it's West Point. I believe Stingray was in the Navy. I can't think of their top school off the top of my head.
Yeah, we went there. It was pretty cool. And I was walking around. It's funny. I was walking around, and Rev, you look crack up. I was walking around, and I asked the guys. I wanted to get a haircut because I heard you can get a haircut for a couple bucks, right? So I was going to get a haircut.
Yeah.
I always cut my hair that way anyway, right? So I always cut my hair short. So I said to these young guys, and I said, hey, where's the barbershop? And the guy's like, he looks at me, and he basically treated me like super well. And he's like, yes, sir. He said, and he takes me, he took me all the way across the campus and took me there. And he opened the door, took me down the hall, everything, And then afterwards I said to Ray, and then, what was up with that? And he goes, because you're on base. He thinks you're some kind of bigwig, just not in uniform,
Oh yeah. Well, man, yeah, I mean, the way you look, and you're in better shape than me, and most people in general. Yeah, you look like you'd be like an admiral or somebody pretty high up.
Oh, that is a crack up, man. I was cracking up. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did something, Rev. I was a little bit sad too because, I don't want our military guys kissing ass. I
yeah,
want,
yeah,
I want these guys to be confident, fucking kicking ass. They're the guys doing the work. They're the guys on the line. Like fuck the old guys. I mean, not really, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's a confidence in young men that is a good thing. I don't want too much. You know what I mean? I want the military guys
yeah.
to be able to have confidence to make decisions and take action. I feel like there's just too much kissing ass these days in everything.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of it. I would have to say, um, it's not everybody. It's not every unit. It depends on what branch of service you're in, what type of company you're in, whether it's a combat role or support role. It's just so many different variables. And I've been in good units, bad units, and then a lot of them that are in between. But I'd say the leadership has the biggest influence over the culture, and not even necessarily big army leadership, but the company commanders and first sergeants and senior NCOs can have a big effect on unit morale. But I don't know, man. I agree with you. From my perspective, though, like accountability is probably the number one issue that I've seen on my end, and it's accountability as far as like people that fuck up just not being either demoted or kicked out, and just kind of some good old boy stuff, being let go, and people not willing to do the paperwork to actually process people out. Now, if you refuse the COVID shot, that's a whole different thing. But but I'm talking like discipline issues and things like that. That's probably my personal biggest complaint with the current military, from my perspective.
Is it there's not people say it again, like taking responsibility or the military forcing them to take responsibility? What is the how could you say it really succinctly?
I would say it's leadership, not holding, well, senior leadership not holding other senior leaders accountable. Like let's just say, for an
Right.
example, a general holding a battalion commander accountable, or a first sergeant not holding his platoon sergeants accountable, or a commander not holding the first sergeant accountable for not getting the mission done.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. There's civilians I've worked with that they can basically, I don't even know if I want to tell you the exact percentage of how bad I think it is, because that might turn some people off. But it's pretty bad on the civilian side, where people not showing up to work at all. Showing up. COVID made all this shit worse. By the way, it was bad before COVID, but COVID just it made the accountability behavior. It just cranked it up and put it on steroids. And like example, I saw people getting drunk at work, not being held accountable for it, showing up late, not being held accountable, just overall performance, people not being able to do their jobs, not being removed from either civilian or AGR positions. And basically the people that are willing to work have to pick up the slack, which in turn eventually affects morale. So, because
Well,
I did. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
of course, man. Fuck. I mean, when guys
Yeah.
aren't doing their job and they're not getting demoted and punished, that's a killer, man. That's a killer to an organization.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not everywhere, but it was enough that there was an organization that I was working for recently, full time, that for the military, that I had just had enough, and I quit, because the pay was all right, it was a nice steady check, it was a federal job, but I just got tired of the people who didn't give a shit, and I felt like I was wasting my time. If that makes any kind of sense.
Right. Yeah, sure. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're taking a big risk by taking that position too, because now you're leaving the military and there's no fallback, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, I'm still in part time, but I did have a full time position within the federal government as a civilian for about 8 years. But there was good and bad parts to it, but overall, it just wasn't worth it anymore for me. I had to get out of that environment.
Right. Let's talk about accountability. I think,
Sure.
yeah, I'm just going to say I am not a military expert, and that's obvious. But here's what I think that the problem is this is, well, one, just a fun fact, but a lot of inventions and a lot of new ways of doing things and discovery are from people outside of a specific field. So there'll be somebody trying to do something and then they make somebody totally different, right? Whether it's post-it notes or Viagra. Things
Yeah.
are either made for one thing and they're used for something totally different, or somebody totally outside the field will, revolutionize, the field itself with a new way of looking at things. And I think that's what's missing in the U.S. military. I really do. I think that you look at a singer like Justin Bieber or whatever. I mean, like him or hate him, the guy can sing, right? He could perform. He came from
Yeah.
he came from YouTube. That guy was never chosen by a talent scout. The old experts, right? They've kind of been proven to be idiots in the era of crowdsourcing, right? Now that you can just you can just watch the views on a video and you can see who's popular. You can see who people like. You don't need a guy to come in and say, I think this guy's going to be popular in music, right? Now with YouTube, you just have people singing in their bathroom, in their garage,
Yeah.
singing in a fucking department store on a karaoke machine. I saw one girl became famous. It's like it just comes out from the crowd. The crowd likes her, so you don't need somebody to tell you the crowd might like her, right? And I just think that I feel like the military is like a black box that doesn't use any kind of information from the civilian, from civilians, from people that aren't in, a certain Harvard educated, blah, blah, blah. I know this personally because I was, you know, by a lot of people consider me a China expert. Like a lot of my friends are China experts on TV, and
Yeah.
they call me, ask me advice. We talk about ideas, but I'm never accepted. I'm never accepted. I tried to get into politics. I tried to get on Donald Trump's China team, and I contacted people I knew, but because I don't have the right education background, right? I don't have the Harvard, military thing. Even though
Yeah.
these same motherfuckers are calling me for advice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they call me and ask me, "What do you think about this? What did you hear?" And I'm like, "Let me ask around," and we figure it out, And I just think that there's two types of kind of intelligence. Well, there's probably more, but I mean, like, there's on the ground experience, and then there's education, and both are valuable, But I feel like the military, and also by proxy the government, the U.S. government is very poor, very very poor at getting homegrown talent. You know, Let me give you an example. So China, how they pick their spies, right? The way they pick their Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. We lost you there for a second, but I can hear you.
Somebody tried to call me. Yeah, they
Oh,
might try
okay.
to call again. So I'll turn it off. It's some reason that interferes with the thing. Okay, but
No worries.
so what was I just saying there? I was just saying a story. Then
Oh,
I
you were
started.
talking about how China picks their spies.
Oh yeah, how they pick their spies. So what they do is they will look at somebody who is very good at something. Okay. Sorry, and my friend keeps calling. Uh,
No
so
worries, man.
yeah, they will take, like, for example, they will take a girl. So there was a girl who was a translator in Shanghai, and she was, I won't say her name, and I've already done an episode about her and everything. And she was very good at, let's just say, manipulating foreign men, powerful foreign men.
Oh,
And
okay.
so she got to be very, close up to everybody, and she was like, she was hobnobbing with Tony Blair and all these guys. And so, of course, the government, they looked at her and they said, hey, this girl, like, why would you, like, the US government, what they would do is they would just pay somebody to be a spy, right? They'll send them to spy school. They'll say, okay, you're going to be
Yeah.
a spy. They're going to teach them spy stuff. China, they'll look at people that are good at stuff, and then they'll reach out to them, and they'll say, "Hey, you're quite good at fucking, getting close to foreign nationals that are powerful, right? Let me make you a deal. Let me let's put some money in your pocket. Let's get you, you know what I mean? Let's get you going, right?" And then of course, you know, everybody's trying to make their way in this world, and they get an offer like that. It's a pretty good offer, right? They're doing something they love, something they're already doing, and they're good at it, right? And they're being appreciated, and now they're making some money. So naturally, those people are the best spies. Those people that have a talent, right? And so
Yep.
China is very good at that. They're very good at it. I can't even understate it. They're so good at it. They will look around and see anybody who's just good at anything, and then they'll reach out and they'll say, "Hey, why don't you work for us? Part time, right?" And I just feel like the U.S. military is like the world's worst. It's like there's no open dialogue and there's no accountability for everything that's happened. Let me tell you why I think it's so important, and I think you already know. But the thing is like, okay, China stole all our fucking technology, pretty much, right? The F-35, the F-22. I mean, they stole like they got their new Wing Lung drone. That's an exact copy of the Predator. They got it all. They really did, and they got it through a lot of suppliers to major contractors, right? So they got it through weakness. They got it through human error, and they got it very easily, actually. They sent them like pictures of girls. Guy would click on it, install the fucking thing in their computer. They would get access to the guy's email. They would use that to get access to somebody else's email. And the next thing you know, they got the whole network, right? So they did it. They did it. It sounds so dumb, but it's so simple. It's so dead simple. But they found people that were just naturally good at that stuff, right? And then they promoted them, and they ended up stealing, whatever, 100-year lead in technology that we had. And now that lead is gone, and it will never come back. This is the biggest change in my lifetime to anything. Like the loss of U.S. military lead in technology it's the most tragic fucking thing. And I don't think anybody really, most people, they just don't understand what's going on in the world. Like we were safe. We had nothing to worry about, really, for another, like, forever, because we were always going to be ahead. And now, forever, I mean, China's right neck and neck with us. In some ways, they're ahead. They're definitely ahead in hypersonic missiles.
I agree.
And the thing is, people are like, it's like this. It's like nobody. There was no death penalty for anybody in the military over that. There was nobody got the death penalty. I want to
China.
No, in the U.S.
Oh yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
I want to see some fucking heads.
Not anymore, at least. Maybe it used to be that way, but not anymore.
Yeah, I didn't see any killing. Like, I don't even know. It's so bad. I don't even know who fucking did it, who let it go. I don't know who fucking clicked on that email. I don't know who ignored it. I don't know. We don't know. All we know is that basically 100 years of work is like lost, right? And nobody is in jail. Nobody gets life imprisonment. No death penalty. Like, nobody was penalized. Nobody even knows. The guys who did it, I'm sure, are still getting their military pensions. Everything's fine with them. And the U.S. and the people are so stupid here. They just sit here back and just, oh yeah, well, we lost 100-year lead. Oh, whatever. Okay, well, we'll do better next time. There is no next time. It's over. The lead is gone.
Yeah.
Now they have all the data. And the thing is about technologies, once you have it, okay, this is like Play-Doh, right? Once you have technology and data, like big data to feed into your AI, once you have it, there's no going back. There's no next time. Now you can do your own thing. It's kind of like, I guess the best example would be like, some guy stole my database when I was headhunting, right? And he went to another company. And then he just started calling all of my guys in my database, right? When he did that, that had a very serious effect on my income, because he went to a company with like 80 different guys working there. So now they got 80 guys calling my guys, Plus, they got my notes because I interviewed 3,000 guys. Now it didn't ruin me actually because I had such a good relationship with the top guys. It was fine. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man, it really affected my ability to build a business. It didn't affect my personal ability to headhunt because I could still call my guys up and it was fine. But as far as the company, it made it much more difficult because my database was now being shared with 80 guys, 80 young, smart guys are calling, looking at my notes and my analysis of a guy, and then they're calling him and making him job offers, you know? So naturally, the guy's going to take the best job offer. He doesn't care how they got it or whatever. He just wants the job, right? He wants the best job. So, once that data was gone, that was when I went and started another company because I knew that it was going to be very difficult. One, I couldn't really prosecute the guy. It was very difficult to prosecute in Japan for that. And also I knew that it was kind of over, you know what I mean? As far as building a company and hiring guys. Because once the data's gone, you know what I mean? So I think that data and technology, once it's gone, it's like, there is no next time. I guess that's, you know what I mean? It's so tragic.
Well, there's no next time unless we have some new breakthrough innovation. But to me, it looks like China is the one making all these breakthroughs recently with the hypersonic missiles and shit like that.
Well, that's the thing. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is once scientists, okay. So let me tell you why I'm so upset about this is because, okay, the way that China uses the data, here's what they do. So they get the data, they hack the F-35, they hack Google's algorithm. Joe Yong-kan hacked Google's algorithm, right? And him and his team. So once they get that algorithm, let's use a civilian example. Once they got the Google algorithm, now I think the Google algorithm was the most valuable thing man had ever made, as far as money. That was the single most valuable thing man has ever invented. Yeah. And because it gives you a total master of the universe understanding of the internet. It's a key. It's such a valuable thing. And so once they hacked that, once they had that, they took that data. Now here's what Americans don't understand. The Chinese were very, very smart. It wasn't just hacking. What they did, maybe a lot of people don't know this. So even for you might be surprised. The way they use data when they hack it, that's important to know because here's what Americans think. They think when you hack, let's say you hack Tesla, right? Then you're going to have a Tesla competitor. So you'll have a similar looking car from another company that will, you know what I mean, not be quite as good because it's a copy, right? That's that's why Americans are not so worried about hacking data because they're like, well, if they make a copy of our cars, then we'll just make a better one, right? The problem is, right. The problem is that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So here's how it works. They get the Google algorithm, okay? They take it and they chop it up and they give it to research institutes in universities. Okay.
Okay.
So students in China have access to the pieces, chunks of various works of art in technology. And they get to reverse engineer them, back engineer, study them, test on them, and essentially learn, question them, look for weaknesses in them, and essentially use it as kind of a almost like a practice. You know what I mean? Like a what is that called when you're fighting and you do like a spar, right?
Like simulation stuff.
Yes, simulation, sparring, testing, learning. And so they're grinding this information through some of the smartest minds in the world because Chinese students are smart. Okay, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of engineers. Oh, yeah. There's a shit ton of smart engineers in China. Don't make no mistake about that. So you got young, aggressive, intelligent, hardworking, still relatively poor and trying to prove themselves. I mean, just think about it. These are the most dangerous kinds of young guys. Always have been. Oh, yeah. In every country. The most scariest thing to an incumbent in any position is a young guy who's smart, has nothing to lose, and just sharp as a fucking whip and has balls, right? Just doesn't give a shit, right? Yeah. That's how young guys are, right? Young guys are like that. They're just full of confidence, right? Now, imagine you're in China, you're protected by the government, and you feel that way, and you're paid basically. You know what I mean? So it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So the information not only went to companies, but it went to students. And now contrast that with America. In America, the best students go to work for the best companies, and they create stuff in secret that no one ever sees. No one learns from the Google algorithm because it's locked up. Even people inside Google don't have access, obviously, to the Google algorithm. So you got a work of art made by a few geniuses, right? Sitting inside, let's just imagine a locked box, essentially, okay, in America. Then you have that box opened up, shared, studied. Just think of collaboration docs and hacking competitions, and I mean, just imagine what you can learn from that. Something like that. We could never do that with the Google algorithm because it's a proprietary. It's owned by Google. There's no way they would do that, and it would be disastrous, right, for the company. But in China, they so when they take stuff, it's really disastrous because what it does, the same thing as they hacked the Bell Labs data, they hacked Nortel in Canada. If you want to make a movie that's really the best spy movie of all time, make a movie about Nortel, Northern Telecom in Canada, because that company was hacked all the way up to the president's desk for 10 years. For 10 years. And why was that company so important? Well, one, it was Canada's best technology company, most important. And number two was they had the library. Okay, they had the basic knowledge of electronics and physics and everything from the Bell Labs, from the Bell Laboratory, the guy who made the telephone, right?
Oh, okay.
The Bell Laboratory, that was like the best. That was the best basic data, science data around. And we're talking like basic understanding of the world, right? They hacked that whole company. Not only obviously drove them into bankruptcy, and I don't want to get into names of the people who did it or the company because I don't really want to have any problems with them. But they hacked that, and it's well known now. It's you can read about it. And they took that data. What they really wanted. Of course, they're going to take the money. They're going to take the copies of the routers and all the basic internet infrastructure, and they're going to make their own. And that was very successful. But the most important thing was that research data and that proprietary data, and that data then was shared again amongst all the universities, all the research institutes in China. So now you got Chinese students studying stuff that we're not even allowed to study.
Okay.
We don't have access to. Westerners can't get that data. Because a lot of the data, a lot of the best stuff in America, it's proprietary, right? So, when China steals, when they hack a military, a defense contractor, because the reason why they hacked defense contractors is because they had a little more, they hacked quite a few contractors, but then they started getting shut down. So they said, oh, here's the easy way in. So they got the defense contractors subcontractor, basically, right? And those guys were a supplier. They were a piece of cake. So that's basically how they got our lead. And yet, and now the reason why China's coming out with these inventions is because of this theft, and it will never stop. That's what I'm saying. Like, never in 1,000 years, China will have a lead they would never have had. And that's why it doesn't matter anymore protecting the data, really. It's not really our goal anymore. Like, it's like if you own a bank, okay, the military, if the military was a bank and somebody walked in there and took all the money, and then the military guys, they came to the fucking bank and they just told the public, oh, the Chinese took our, all the money, and then everybody's like, oh, those Chinese shouldn't do that, and blah, blah, blah. What are they talking about? That's the job of the fucking military.
Yeah.
The job of the military is to protect those things. And when there's a failure of this level, and then nobody gives a shit, nobody even understands what's going on, we're fucked. The data is gone. The students are studying it now and improving it. And they're coming out with stuff that we don't even have now.
Yeah.
And why? Just think about just think about how motivated you would be to be as a student to have this kind of data, man. Because like, man, you'd be so motivated because the minute you see, let me just finish it because this is the important part.
Sure.
Is okay. So you're a student studying this data, okay, whether it's hacked F-35, you're looking for all the weaknesses, you understand everything about that plane. They even got the emails. They got all the emails that were the discussions of all the weaknesses in the plane and why they made the political decisions they made to make that plane. Okay, so the military knows they made a lot of sacrifices, compromises with that plane, right? Okay,
Yep.
so that was fine before hacking. Of course, it's not the best because you always want to, you know what I mean? You want it to make the best plane. You don't want political compromises on military equipment, like our top fighter. You don't want that you don't want that to
Sure.
be a political football. You want that to be a technological marvel, right? Like the SR-71 or something, right? You want the best, finest plane ever fucking made, and fuck politics, right? Okay, so there is politics,
Yeah.
fine, but the worst part is they got access to all those discussions. They got all those emails, and that's well known now. So not only did they get the basic planes, but it's kind of like the difference between I steal your test answers and then I steal all your work that led to those test answers. So I can see all the mistakes you made. I can see all the logical fallacies. I can see all the brilliance you had. I can see your
Yeah.
error in your thinking. I can see everything. So
They're getting a long form answer.
yeah, they're getting a long form answer, but they don't have the politics. Okay, so the politics that made the F-35 not as good as it could have been, they don't have that. So they just say, well, let's just make it the way the Americans should have made it, right? Let's just make it the way, you know what I mean? If it, and they're like, of course, but let's improve it because of course, you can always improve something, right? Time has passed. Now you're
Yep.
looking at it with a fresh eye. You got your best aeronautical engineers looking at it, and they're like, hey, we can improve this thing, and it's just a natural progression. If you give the smartest guys the, the best data, along with all the analysis of how they came to those, conclusions and compromises and everything, that's to me, it's just breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking what happened. It is fucking insane that no one's
Yeah.
talking about this. And the military, they're just shutting up like, oh, the Chinese took it. Like, let's focus on them. No, let's focus on the guys that didn't protect it. That's what I feel. Is like there needs to be heads fucking
Sure.
rolling in the military and the government.
Yeah. No, I agree. But also at this point, like you were saying earlier, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. Yeah, we still need the accountability, but I kind of feel like you do, where it's too late. I think the only thing keeping us even somewhat of being the top military in the world, which isn't going to be for much longer, is the only thing that's saving us is our technology. I mean, there are lots of good people in the military still, but I don't see the work ethic that I saw 20, 25 years ago when I originally joined. It's just a lot of shit's changed, I mean, the world's changed too, but at the same time, I feel like, again, I don't have any intimate knowledge of the Chinese military, but as an outside observer, I do follow multiple news sources. I keep up with this stuff just because it could affect me directly still. The Chinese military just seems more disciplined to me. They seem like they're better trained overall. And like you're saying earlier, they seem more hungry, for success.
Oh, they're definitely hungry, and there's always like up and comers. You know what I mean? And you give them the best stuff. But I think the main thing, I still think there's a lot of value in holding people accountable, like you were saying. I think it has to happen.
Oh yeah.
Because we lost the lead. Okay, fine. Let's have a public, reckoning of what was lost and how it was lost and why it was lost. Because we can't get the data back. We can't make people forget things they learned. But
Sure.
I guess the bottom line is, they failed. It's like the military failed, and the governments failed by not alerting the people to what happened. So it has nothing to do with the China. It has not. There's always going to be an opposing country. The thing is, these guys, there's got to be a serious reckoning. And you know me, I don't care. Like I am not one for the status quo. Like whatever we end up
Yeah.
doing, accepting whatever role we have in the world that's realistic, you know, I think it's important. We got to reevaluate. We got to look at the world honestly, and we got to clean out the system. Otherwise, if this is covered up, if people aren't penalized, like what does that tell other guys in the military? You know, like
Yeah, it kind of gives them a green light to say, well, they didn't give a shit about this guy, so what are they going to do to me?
Well, not only that, like there's a lot of money being sloshed around for these guys. People that steal technology, people that hand technology, they get a lot. There's a lot of money waiting for those guys anytime, right? Always happened. Yeah. Even back in the Russian, Cold War era, right? There was always the Russian government there with, 100 grand in a suitcase, right? Or, back then, or hidden under a post box or whatever, So
yeah. Yeah, I guess there's always that aspect too, the financial motivation. It's definitely a changing world. I don't know, kind of similar on a similar topic. As far as the China stuff goes, what are your thoughts on Taiwan? Because I personally don't think that the United States needs to get involved with China-Taiwan. It looks like we're going to, should there be an actual conflict breakout, but I am really 100% against it. Not just because I don't want to see a bunch of Americans die for what I believe is an internal Chinese conflict, but also because I think that's going to be the last. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a good outcome for the United States if we get involved in that. But you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, very strong thoughts actually. I think okay. So let's go back to the Taiwan first. So
sure.
The reason why, there's a lot of reasons. It's really a complicated issue. So I don't want to make it. I don't want like this is the final answer on Taiwan. I'm just going to say things that I think are interesting,
sure.
That's relevant. And I haven't thought about this one. It's a great question. It's an important question. So I will give a few thoughts here. First thing is that the reason why China wants, this is on the sympathetic side, this first point. The reason why China wants, one of the many reasons they want Taiwan is because China is not blessed with the blue ocean ability, right? They don't have access to the sea. Very little. Okay, so blue ocean is when you can take a submarine and you can, it has many, there's actually the official meaning is a little different, but the ability to operate far from shore. But the way I look at it in this case is that blue ocean is the ability to have a blue ocean. So they don't have the avenue to have it because whenever a submarine or a boat leaves China, it's going to go through Russian space. It's going to go through Japanese space. It's going to go through Taiwanese space. What they have to do is they have to announce their presence. Okay, when you go through someone else's space. So the Chinese military, every time they leave, they have to tell their enemy where they're going. They're coming through. Okay, so the Chinese don't like that, as you might get. So because a country like the U.S., when a submarine leaves Hawaii, they don't tell anybody, and they don't have to, because it's not anybody. It's U.S. territory, and then they're out in international waters. So there's no need to check in. There's no protocol. But naturally, sovereign nations demand, as China does, everybody does. They demand to know, because otherwise you might have an accident, right? If you don't know there's an airplane or a submarine, or so China is very basically fucked when it comes to their natural resources in many ways. And the biggest one is blue ocean. This is where if you look at the map of China, look at all the islands of Japan. All that is all like a big wall. Okay, it's all a big Japanese wall, and then the Taiwanese wall starts right below the Japanese.
Yeah.
So the thing is, and then below Taiwan's way down there, right? And then you got other countries, right? So China is really like India is very blessed because both sides of India are all ocean all the way down. So India's like got the best
Mhm.
for a brick country. I mean, India's just gold. That country just has it going on because it's all shore all the way down. They have a million ways to hide things and submarines and this and that, and China doesn't. And so, one way of looking at it, I don't really, I don't know what we should do with this one. I'm not hinting at anything, but China is kind of like, okay, this is a China sympathetic point, but it's
Yeah.
almost like they're too screwed, right? Like if they don't have any way to get their submarines out, it's like if you don't give a young guy any money at all, you know what I mean? Like poor people, right? Eventually they're going to revolt, right? You got to kind of make things a little bit fair, just enough, at least so they don't pop off, right? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so maybe, I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but maybe there should be some kind of agreement where China can get some kind of blue ocean ability to send out shit like everybody else does. Okay, that's the first point because that directly goes to Taiwan. Okay, so the next thing is once they get Taiwan, then they got blue ocean city in front of them. Okay, because anything from Taiwan is going to be Taiwan until international waters, and they're home free. So that was the original number one reason why they wanted Taiwan, is because they realized that China is very advanced in many ways, but there's one way they're totally fucked, and that's submarines. Their submarines compared to U.S. submarines, no comparison. So the U.S. rule the seas.
Yeah. At least currently. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and also the fact that there's so many ports, there's so many bases globally that accept U.S. submarines, and there's so many partners, and you know what I mean. It's like the U.S. submarine fleet is fucking formidable. It's formidable, and thank God, by the way. But so they want blue ocean. The next thing is Taiwan. I mean, I shouldn't get into that part. Whether it's part of China, I'm not going to comment on that too much. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, my point with the China, and this is more of a philosophical question or rhetorical question, is does the United States really want to get into a war with China over Taiwan?
Okay. Okay.
I kind of disagree with it, but that's just my opinion.
Let me give you some thoughts on that. It might influence you. You never know. Uh, and I want to hear yours more too after I say this. Okay. So the thing
Sure.
is Taiwan is. I mean, Taiwan was our partner. We supported China in the anti-Japan war. In World War II, and that was the Chiang Kai-shek was the leader of China. These guys, we supported China. The Flying Tigers, that's what they're called. They
Oh
flew,
yeah. Yeah.
they flew over Tibet and helped the Chinese. But then what happened was, of course, the government was overthrown. Basically, there was a civil war, and the communists took over the government. So the government, we helped China. America was a friend of China's, and the essentially, if it was a company, you know what I mean. We helped the president, and then the president got overthrown as the new
Yeah.
president, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like the U.S. is not a natural enemy of China. You know, we were very close to China, the Flying Tigers, and we gave a lot of support, to China during the war. A lot of Americans lost their lives helping China, actually.
Yeah. Fighting the Japanese. Mhm.
Yeah, fighting the Japanese, right? And allowing China to be free, because Japan was a colony, or China was a colony, right, of the Japanese. So we helped free China. The America did, and that's not taught today. A lot of people don't really understand that. The reason why the communists are in charge is because of the U.S. And so we really we kicked some serious ass. We gave a lot of help, and the problem was, well, I don't want to get into the Civil War because the Civil War is very interesting, but it's too long of a topic. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so okay,
Complicated.
So now the communists took over, and they're still in charge, right? So should U.S. carry about Taiwan? Well, Taiwan is our natural ally. Okay, for starters, the historical. I guess it's a long way of saying that. The second thing is Taiwan's also become quite democratic. It's not as democratic as the U.S. in many ways, but in many ways it's kind of a shining example of the beliefs that the U.S. has, right? And the reason why it matters is because the more countries agree on those beliefs, the more deals you can do, the more things you can do together, right? Because you got friendly governments, you can do trade deals, you can do all kinds of stuff, technology transfers. A lot of good things happen when you got friends, right? And Taiwan's
Yeah.
has been a friend to the U.S. If we abandon Taiwan after all this huffing and puffing all these years, I think I think it would be very bad for the U.S. reputation. For one, I
Oh
don't.
yeah, no doubt. That part, yeah, you're correct there.
It would be terrible because it's like if we're not going to help a democracy that was our natural ally, uh, and if we're going to say we support it and then not do it at the final moment, I mean, to a lot of people that'll be the final straw for trusting the United States because it's like
Yeah,
like how can you trust these guys? And that will have implications for other countries, you know, because
uh, yeah,
there's always doubts and there's always, things happen in politics. I mean, tragedies happen. It's not like you can trust anybody or you can't trust other people. It's complicated, right? And the U.S. has a
hmm
complicated history, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, by and large, trust the United States. And that's why the U.S. is doing so well. It's complicated. A lot of Americans don't really know much about America because they really haven't been outside and talked to people. I learned the most about America talking to people outside the U.S. and
okay.
what good things the U.S. has done in different countries, and going to Vietnam and doing my research on the war, and being out there, you know, with a very critical eye, right, and figuring out the truth. So the U.S. has a lot of advantages because we are seen as trustworthy in many ways. And if we let an ally like Taiwan go, ooh, oh baby, that's a big one. That's a really, really big one. I think it's just my feeling, but there's a lot of people in China who are not too fond of the government,
Okay.
including government people. Okay, they're just doing it because they get paid and this and that. There's a lot of people who know that an open democracy is the way to go. Okay, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people in China that know that, and there's a lot of obviously people in Taiwan and all over the world that still see the U.S. as the best system, despite the fact that there's craziness here too. Um, I would not give up hope on that one. I would say that there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value still that the U.S. has that we don't really realize. But it's like that song. You don't know what you got till it's gone, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it
Good point.
when it's gone and U.S. influence wanes, ability to do a lot of things that we can do naturally now is gone. It's going to be huge on the U.S. But the thing is this. I think the key thing is that's all theoretical. I think it will happen. I think there's no doubt about it. It'll be a huge thing for the U.S. Huge, and never forgiven. Like this will be talked about in hundreds of years. How the U.S. let their ally, be taken over without a word. You know,
Oh, okay. So
I
you're of the opinion that you don't think the U.S. is going to get involved.
no, well,
Is that what
no, no, I don't know. I don't know, but I think they should.
Oh, okay.
I think they should. But I'm
But
saying,
either way, it has major historical consequences.
oh my God, oh yeah, oh it's huge. But I think personally, I think that here's my basic thinking. And again, I'm not a military guy, but my analysis is that we should be willing to go nuclear war over Taiwan. Full
Okay.
on. We should be willing to New York to go, LA to go, Chicago to go. and all the major cities in China gone. I think,
Wow.
yeah, I think we have to be willing to do that on a moment's notice. It
Hmm.
has to, be government policy where the button, it's just things start getting launched. Not right off the bat, of course. No, it has to be a process. Okay, it's got to.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you don't fight a war that way. But I'm saying the willingness, okay, has to be there. The latest, leak from China is that one of the government officials in China leaked a plan because he thought it was too evil. That's what he said. Is that the plan is in over Taiwan? Is that China, the going again? This hasn't been done, but this was
Yeah.
according to this government official. This was in the discussion. Was that China would use the submarine to bomb a nuclear plant in China and blame it on the U.S. Like,
Huh. Okay.
so do a serious nuclear
Yeah.
disaster as
False flag.
as an excuse in order for them to launch nukes on the U.S. and to start sinking aircraft carriers with the DF-41. Okay, so and the thing is, that's the kind of thing the Communist Party is smart. That kind of thing. There wouldn't be enough time to prove it. It would be a perfect excuse. It would be a terrible disaster in China. It would be well done. People would be like fucked up. There'd be people wandering around, melted, and it would be a nightmare.
Oh yeah. Totally.
We're talking like the worst nuclear meltdown of all time, right? Because that would be what would be necessary to start a nuclear war. That would be a good excuse. This is the way the Communist Party thinks. And this is the way we need to think to win today's war. We got to think hardcore. Not that we have to act hardcore, but we have to be ready. We have to be ready to respond to this type of thing. This is the way China's always been. Communist Party's always been. We got to fight today's war, not yesterday's war. We're not fighting the Germans anymore. It's a whole new thing. And I think that we need to be ready for this type of we need to have a response for something like that. And B, we need to act quickly, because that's the only way that things will get better. If we show weakness, if we don't rise to the challenge, we will be eventually defeated. And I think that over Taiwan, I think that we need to be willing to go nuclear because I've been thinking about this for decades. Here's the thing. Everybody's so afraid of a nuclear war, right? Everybody's terrified of a nuclear war with today's thermonuclear weapons.
Sure.
And it shows videos of how terrible they are and how much destruction they would do. But people forget that these are defense weapons, right? The reason why we have them is because we need them. They have nuclear weapons. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a nuclear world. And if we're the only countries not willing to do it, if we're not willing to act, and people know that we're not willing to act, I hate to say it, but you got to be, you know what I mean? You got to be willing to use your weapons, period. And the U.S. right now has just become so soft that it's like, I don't know what would happen in a thermonuclear war, but if we're not ready to do it, then why do we even have them? Let's just get rid of them. There's no point. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just get rid of them. Because if we get rid of them, at least we have some benefit of, the country that gave up their nukes. Because then you're like the peaceful country, like Switzerland or something, right? Like, either give them up or be willing to use them. And the U.S. is in this middle ground where nobody, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like, I would say Taiwan is a red line. It's a red line because one thing we didn't know at Tiananmen Square is that the Communist Party was ready to fall. It was the weakest point. The biggest, and I hold Reagan responsible. He didn't help the students when the Communist Party would have fallen. because during those events, it wasn't just in Tiananmen; it was all over China. There was big uprisings in Chengdu and all over the place, and everybody was asking for help. They wanted the U.S. to help, and the communists were ready to go because Russia was collapsing. Right, same time, the Eastern Europe was collapsing. All it took was, now everybody knows this, but all it took was a little push, and the communists would have been gone if the U.S. would have helped at that time.
Okay.
But we didn't. So now we got this thing on our hands, right? And they're, the, I mean, I think they're weaker than they, in many ways, they have many weaknesses, the Communist Party, and I think
Yep.
that's our main enemy of the United States right now. And I think that we should buckle up and get rid of these fuckers. Basically, you know. I'm not saying like go to war, but I'm saying like, hey, like let's face it, these guys are not doing good things to us. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how far are we going to let them? How, you know what I mean? Like, where is the line? Are we going to be one of these powers that just had the ability to do something but just never did until it's too late? You know?
Yeah, those are great points, and there are other ways to try to undermine their government, the Communist Party, without flat out all out war. But
Well,
yeah,
no. The thing is, no, that's the point. If
yeah,
they're willing to go to war over Taiwan for real, they're not going to do it. The reason why they're going to do it is because we're not willing to go to war.
yeah, yeah. And I think, just to backtrack a little bit, regardless of my personal opinion on the matter, it's I really just I wish, if our government is seriously willing to go to war over Taiwan, all I would like to see is them be a little more honest with the American people and prepare the American people for that. You know what I mean? So, have an honest, open debate and open conversation. Is this really what we want to do? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of people don't know history. They don't understand what's going on, so it is difficult. But yeah, that's true. They should be honest about it. But
unfortunately, it is the government.
yeah, right. I don't think that's the main problem. I think the main problem is they're just giving up shit. Like, gave up all our defense secrets. Now we're just gonna give up Taiwan. We're gonna give up Afghanistan. We're just into giving up fucking business right now. And I don't think it is very. I don't think it's good for us in the long run. The thing is, if we're willing to fight, like for real, if we start putting, I would say if there's any kind of sign that the war is ready to begin, I think we should definitely start sending hundreds of thousands of troops to Taiwan, and just outwardly, just show that we're going all the way, and get all the allies together, get every ally we can possibly get, and let China know that there is the place will be destroyed. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's no way you're going to take Taiwan and still be a country. No matter what it takes, this is not going to happen. Well, not in today's world, not in today's dynamics. So there will be no communist party. Like, it's going to be over. You're not going to get what you want on this one. And the thing is, communists are smart, and they won't do it. They'll come up with a good little plan, and they'll tell people, well, this and that, and they'll just move on to the next thing, right? I think Taiwan is a red line. I think it should be a red line. And not just the U.S., but all allies. And Japan has already said that Japan was the only country with balls. They were the ones that said, if they invade Taiwan, Japan is going to attack. And Japan was they were the only country who said that. Because they know.
I saw that recently in a news story. They're kind of gearing up.
Well, they're gearing up, but they actually said it. The defense minister.
Oh, okay.
I forget his name, but yeah. No, he said, yeah, like they're the first country to say. And it makes sense because the leaked plans are to get Taiwan first and then start taking the Japanese islands, right? Start moving up the islands to get more and more of the islands. Because once you got Taiwan, it's pretty easy. I think the nearest Japanese island is only a couple hundred miles away,
Oh, okay.
So, you start to take those islands real easy once you got a foothold, down there, right?
Yeah, but yeah, like you said it earlier. I mean, it's a big, complicated topic. It's not easy to put into a little box and explain it. But I personally believe though we're going to have a resolution, or we're going to know. I think we're going to personally think this is just my opinion, but through my analysis and listening to other intelligence analysts, I think we'll probably know what's going to happen by before the 2024 election, and I think next year is actually going to be a really big year. I personally think we'll know by the end of 2023 what China is going to do or not going to do, and vice versa with the U.S. But anyway, that's just my, Reverend 20 piece, nobody guess and opinion on that.
Well, there's a lot of people who are saying that it's going to happen soon, like maybe within a couple months, the invasion of Taiwan.
Yeah, it could happen before the end of the year. I'm thinking springtime, but again, that's just my hypothesis, so to speak.
And again, why is that happening? Why are these messages? The only reason why these messages are happening is because we are not saying clearly what we're going to do.
Yeah, like the president saying one thing and then the other government backing off saying, "Oh no, it's still the what was their policy, the one China policy, or all this ambiguity whether we're going to defend Taiwan." So it definitely sends mixed signals to China also. So.
Well, the thing is, it's a very clear signal to China that the U.S. is not going to do shit.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because
yeah,
it's such a big deal to fight this war or not. Either you're going to fight or you're not, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a war like Ukraine. It's a different kind of war. It's a different war. It's not going to the Taiwanese are not going to hold off the Chinese. That's not going to happen.
I don't think so either. I think if they move on it, even if China loses a huge amount of troops, Taiwan's going to be just totally destroyed. Again, my opinion on it.
Yeah. There's thousands of missiles pointing right that way. Probably tens of thousands of missiles, and just those alone, I think China just needs to know. It's just a very simple thing. I don't understand why people don't, you can't let that happen. And as long as as everybody knows that you're willing to put the whole country on the line, it's just not going to happen. I guess what I'm saying is a big version of the Kennedy Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But in this case, we got to, not only with words, we got to get ready. Like, we got to put things in place. We got to speed up development. We got to, you know what I mean? We got to start getting soldiers in Taiwan and showing that we're serious, and I think also allies should too. And if China uses that as a excuse, okay, like they say, oh, the U.S. is militarizing, so we're militarizing. It's ridiculous to believe that, because if they weren't going to invade, they weren't going to invade, right? And if they are going to invade, they are going to invade. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we're in this catch-22 these days with democracy.
Yeah.
It's like if we do anything, they turn around and say, "You made us do it," and then we believe it. It's like, no, it's like if you're listening to a criminal, he says, "Well, the cop made me do it because he did this," and it's like, no, the guy did it, right? You got it. There's a bottom line. Take responsibility. Who did what? China, if they're going to invade Taiwan, they invaded Taiwan because they wanted it. They wanted TSMC. They wanted technology, semiconductor technology. They wanted blue ocean capacity. They wanted access to U.S. military files and personnel in Taiwan, because there's so many U.S. military secrets in Taiwan. It's unbelievable. Because we had bases, we've been on forever. It's like it's like our worst nightmare to lose
that, and then all the stuff we've sold them over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but these days they got most of the technology. What they're looking for is like they're paying like pilots, British pilots and American pilots, to help the Chinese military train the pilots, so they know from the Royal Air Force guys, what would the pilot do? What is his thinking process in a war? What would he do? What would he not do? So they're hiring ex-military guys now and they're getting caught one by one, who are teaching them not basic technology. Now they're looking for like personnel training and like, you know, deep knowledge of strategy from an individual, like each person basis. What would he do? What would they do? What would, you know what I mean? So they can react quickly and know what to do. So it's not just military equipment anymore. I think Taiwan, there's so many guys who work in the military for the U.S. military for decades, right, in Taiwan. Those guys, they know all the secret stuff about what the U.S. thinks about China. There's there's a gold mine of data in Taiwan from the military guys, Taiwanese, who work with the U.S. military, and also the computers, databases, anything down to the training and everything, the comings and goings. It's going to be if China ever takes over an ex-U.S. military base, you're not. It's going to be so bad you won't even believe it. What's lost? That's never happened before. Wait till
not yet.
Because then those
guys,
now
the Chinese.
Well, once they take over, those guys are going to turn coat big time, right? What else are they going to do? Get executed? You know? And we won't know who to trust anymore. You know what I mean? Because they'll have friends in other bases, and oh, dude, access to defense computers, friends in the military, people. Yeah. Dude, it's going to be like a virus spreading once they get access to ex-military, U.S. military bases and stuff, and trained high-level personnel. Now, Taiwan is too important. I think we got to say nope. Line in the sand, willing to bet it all, willing to go all the way on Taiwan, and then that's it. And then with that attitude, there's no way China's going to invade. Like, there's no fucking way. The Communist Party is not stupid. There is no way that they're going to all get fried, you know, and all their families, and lose all power and all their money and their lives over Taiwan. There's no way. There's no way. They're only doing it because they think they can do it. As soon as they know they can't do it, they'll come up with another plan that we won't like. You know what I mean? And maybe we'll have to go serious, and maybe not. But for Taiwan, I think it's like essential, and the people can see that, because it's not just Taiwan; it's the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see your point, and I'm always open to new ideas and willing to change my mind once I get new information. But yeah, man, it's a complicated subject, and it's definitely, I think, one that's going to come to a head sooner rather than later. But
that's why it's so important to talk about now.
Yeah,
because this could happen in 2 months. You know, everybody here. So I watched one of the red pill channels, and the guy was interviewing women, and he was saying, you know, men's job is to protect. And she goes, well, I'm a lesbian. I don't need a man to protect me. And she said, well, the U.S. military is protecting you. Policemen are protecting you. And she said, yeah, but there's not a war going on. You know, like, that doesn't happen anymore. There's no wars. There's not going to be any wars. And I thought, you know, that's probably what most people think. Most people think that because there's no war right now, there never will be a war, and they'll never need men to protect. And that's a thing of the past. Thank you very much for your service, but we don't need you anymore, because now we're in a new era, you know, where you can just have a rainbow flag and, you know, just ride a unicorn and everything's fine, right? But that's not the reality in my mind. My mind is that definitely there would be another world war, 100%. And it's just a matter of time for when that'll be and who that'll be with. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just reality. It's just like there's going to be an asteroid that's going to hit the Earth. There's no doubt about it. Mathematically, it's going to happen, right? So I think just to be prepared for it, and you know, do what we have done as Americans for fucking 200 something years, is like be up for the fucking, you know, be up for the challenge. You know, I think that's all I want. I want America to be up for the fucking challenge, whatever that challenge is. And I want every man, you know, on a personal basis, to be the same way. just up for the difficulties of life, facing the realities and just saying, hey, fuck, whatever I can handle is scary. It's always scary. Everything is scary. You know what I mean? But it's like a man looks at it and says, yep, whatever it is, I'm down. I'm fucking down. Like, let's go. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to let this happen. No fucking way.
Yeah.
And kill me if you want, but I'm not going to let this happen.
Yeah. Not without a fight.
That's right. I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure this doesn't happen. And I think it's just time for some kind of awakening in the U.S. and probably in westernized countries in general.
Well, I kind of one last thing on this China-Taiwan it's related. Have you heard of a essay called "The Fate of Empires" before?
Who wrote it?
Sir John Glubb. He was a British aristocrat, and he wrote it in, I believe it was 1976, 76 or 78 is when it was published. But he was heavily involved in the Middle East in the 1920s and 30s after World War One.
I might have skimmed it. I read so much and I just forget. But yeah, give me a refresher. Sounds familiar, but yeah, I'm not sure 100%. Well,
Well, I'll when we're done with this, I'll email it. It's a short read. It's 26 pages. But anyway, for a quick summary, it's basically this is his. I think it's a master work in my opinion, or one of his master work or masterpiece, because it's about history and the history of empires, and it's the fate of empires in search for survival. And his theory or hypothesis in the paper is basically like empires have a life cycle, like a lifespan, like a human does, where birth, life, and then death, and history.
Oh, I read this. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And history is cyclical. And his basically, and he has historical proof in the essay, but that most empires last for roughly 250 years. And, the United States is an empire, whether people believe that or not, or want to admit that or not. We are a global.
No, of course.
Yeah. The current global empire. And we're actually at the very end of that life cycle, if you subscribe to this hypothesis and theory. And, that's one thing. I don't know. I'm a big believer in history and learning from history, and that history, it repeats, may not be the exact repeat the same way all the time, but it definitely rhymes. And I don't know. It just, to me, I'm not trying to be fatalistic, but we are really coming to a huge turning point here in the future very shortly. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. And this is just all lining up for, like you said, a big battle. And I think a lot of the American people, just psychologically, since we haven't had a major war in so long, a real major war, are just not prepared for it, and that's unfortunate.
I thought about that, and for many years, I thought I agreed with you on that one, that there was a kind of it's the end. One problem with that, I don't know if you know this, but one of the propaganda, like the Chinese propaganda, is very influential in media, in U.S. media. Some say it almost controls U.S. media. It's amazing, actually. The effectiveness of Chinese propaganda is like breathtaking, actually. Most people underestimate Chinese propaganda, how effective it is. But anyway, I could do a whole propaganda episode. But one of the main points that constantly that is going over and over is that U.S. is in decline. It's the end of the U.S. empire, and it's kind of a natural thing, and many reasons, right? I think it's dangerous because that whether that guy's historically true or not, it plays into us giving up and thinking this is like ordained or something. It's not ordained. Now, that guy's essay is a nice essay of history, but history, that's the thing is that each, you always fight in the last war. Each war is totally different. Situations are different. I think that there's truth to the fact that people tend to get pompous and then lose their edge, and that gives an edge to somebody who's hungry and up and coming. So there is a kind of a natural law there that's very true too. So whether they're both true, I don't know. But I would say that in today's day and age, with artificial intelligence, with the U.S. still leading in AI, China is neck and neck, but we're still leading, I think. Not in everything. They're leading in facial recognition, and they're winning in certain aspects of, and they might win. I don't know, but I mean, it's like they're. My feeling is the U.S. is still ahead in artificial intelligence, and I think that AI is really the key to the future. I think at the end, whoever wins the AI battle wins all battles.
Oh yeah, that's its own thing, and you're right. The whatever country, you said it perfectly. That'll be the dominant whoever has that. So I don't.
Well, no. That's what I was going to say is like because of that, I think that the thing is for the U.S. is to win, whatever battles we got to win until we get the dominant lead in AI, because AI is obviously it's unpredictable and it might not turn out to be what everybody says, and I don't want to overhype it because things are always overhyped and then they don't work out. But at the same time, as humans, we have a job to try to do our best to see into the future, even if we're weak and poor at it. We still have to try, you know what I mean? We got to try to figure things out and make the best decision we can. Plant a tree where, start a business when, have a baby when, right? We got to do it, right? It's part of just being human. Even if we're terrible at it, we try to predict, So
Yep.
the best I've read about the way that AI works is that AI, obviously, I'm talking about generalized AI, not specialized AI. That's a big AI, big difference. But general AI is that obviously it's very stupid in the beginning. You can't tell the difference between a cat and a dog, and
fire hydrant.
right. Specialized AI, they program it. They say, okay, that's a dog, that's a cat, and then they let them, they give it, they tell it stuff. They give it instructions. Generalized AI, they don't give them anything. They let the computer be totally stupid for a long time, and it can't even tell the difference. But what happens is with AI, which is funny, is that over time it takes a lot longer for general AI to get smart, because specialized AI, you can just tell it that's a cat, that's a dog, and then he'll start quickly, discerning between these two. With general AI, what's beautiful about it is it takes forever for it to figure out that a cat and dog. It takes millions and millions of errors, right? But once it does, it figures it out in funny ways. So it might like scan the cat's eye, with like a different, like it might see something in the cat's eye that we don't even see, right? And then they'll know that's
Sure.
different than that, and it'll figure out what a cat is in a way that we never thought about as humans, but it's more accurate. Okay, like there's no way it can be fooled. It knows that's a fucking cat, right? You can have a dog that looks a hell of a lot like a cat, and it's going to know right away that it's not, because it's figured out what a cat is in such a complete way that the human eye just doesn't compare, right? So AI, when it does become intelligent, it becomes very powerful. That's why everybody's putting so much money into it. That's why everybody's using it. That's why you get suggested videos on YouTube. That's why you get suggested books on Amazon. That's all AI. AI is already very powerful. It's already being used everywhere. I love, the suggested videos. I'll be watching something and I'll get like a live version of 1968, somebody playing the same song. And it's just like, wonderful. I'd never find that. Some Japanese guy doing it in Portugal or something. You know what I mean? Like, I would never know about that. But AI is smarter than human in many ways. So it's like, it finds that, gives me, because it says, well, he watched that thing. He watched two versions of that. He's probably going to want another one, I'm not even knowing that I want that, Yeah, I don't even know I want it. I just like, hey, that was really cool. I never even knew there was another one. And then they give me another one. I'm like, oh my God. I got a version of, I don't know how to love him in Swedish from the Jesus Christ Superstar musical. And it was like, and when I got it, it It was amazing because it was the lead singer of ABBA before she was famous, and it was so beautiful. Such a great,
Okay.
yeah. And when she was like young, and so AI is no, it's no fucking pipe dream. It's being used. If we beat China in AI, if the U.S. beats China, we're gonna win. We're gonna win it all. I think that, theories be damned. If we win AI, if we win this with these next few technological battles, we're going to win, no matter how stupid the people are in America. You could have stupid people everywhere, but if you're
Yeah.
winning on AI, you're going to win.
I've heard Elon Musk theorize that also, that's whoever wins the AI race is basically the last. That's kind of, it's not necessarily it, like the world's over, but that's going to be the dominant country or civilization for a long time after that.
I never heard him say it, but that's what I've always thought. And what I've read is that because material science, drug science, that they already have, machines that are mixing up chemicals that you would never mix up and then testing them as drugs, like hundreds and hundreds a day, so that no longer is there people theorizing which ones should go together. They're just putting them all together and finding out what the fuck and they're like finding out all kinds of new stuff. So AI thinks totally differently. It mass tests things and things like that, and it's yeah. I think it's going to be very powerful. I think if the U.S. just keeps their head up, keeps focused, keeps things peaceful, is willing to pay whatever price we got to pay, and forging ahead, I think the Communist Party will fall. Personally, in the type things like this, Taiwan could be the end of the Communist Party too. It probably will be.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've been promising and promising and promising. That's another good reason not to let it happen. Is to say nope, not going to happen. Not unless Taiwanese people want it. Obviously, if the Taiwanese people want it, then they have every right. But it's
Sure.
just if they don't want it, that's another thing, right? If Taiwanese people want to be part of China, that's fine. Or if the U.S. wants to be part of China, they have every right, to do that. But if they don't, that's our business, right? So I think we just have to keep winning for a few more years, maybe a few more decades, in other words, and we're going to end up doing just fine. I'm very optimistic, actually. But the only way we're going to get there is if we get through these challenges right now.
Yeah, those are great points, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like, just because of the history or whether fate of empires theory is true or not, or they're somewhere in between. I'm not saying to just roll over and take it and just say, well, fuck it, there's no point, so let's just quit. But I just bring it up as something just kind of
I mean,
keep in mind,
yeah,
reference.
and if it is kind of true historically, it would be a very valuable piece of literature to study for us, so that it doesn't happen this time. Right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying there's anything absolute for sure with us. We don't have to go down that path. I think we're trending that way, but it doesn't have to be that way. So
That's the thing about history is things seem like they're going one way so many times, and they end up not going that way. And I think in the end, I mean, I personally think if we play our cards right, if the U.S. uses its advantages right, I think the world's going to be pretty darn okay.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I like to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah. No, it's just a matter. We got to win certain battles, right? We got to win certain battles, and then there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of understanding,
Sure.
education, people need to have. But yeah, no, I feel that way, and it's not that I feel that way. I see it that way. I can see the opportunity in front of us, and I know the weakness of the Communist Party that a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of weakness there. They just don't. They always pretend like they're. You know what I mean? It looks like this impenetrable force, but I don't.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance that good things could happen, and I think in the end, very good for the Chinese people, because I love the Chinese people. I speak the language.
Yeah.
I would love to actually live there again. And enjoy the place, because it's an awesome place. The history is amazing.
Oh
The
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's fucking. It's the most interesting, Rev. It's the most interesting place. Like, you're just being challenged every day. Like, almost every person that worked for me, because we had about 700 people working for us in my company. We were doing all kinds of stuff, real estate. We were cleaning houses. We were producing television shows. We were doing all kinds of shit. We were helping companies get settled in China.
Hmm.
We were doing all kinds of shit, property management. And the thing is like, my workers, every one of them, if I ever talked to them and they told me their life story, it was like tearjerk. Like, it was so powerful because they had been through so much shit. Almost died when they were kids because of $1.25 medicine. You know, just crazy stuff. Literally saved because a neighbor came up with $1.25.
Shit. Yeah, that's something else. Type of stuff that you know, yeah, some homeless guy could come up with that here in the United States, easy.
Yeah, well, here, like, always got the government helping you. Like,
Well,
now,
yeah,
like,
that
yeah,
part too.
this was out in Western China, and like, it was just brutal stories. And the Chinese people, they're tough. They lived through all this shit, and they're smart, and the culture is deep. I learned so much in China, and I think it's really helped me a lot. It really helped me to almost become young again. Because my brain, I got so much
Yeah,
knowledge, and at a time in my life when most people were plateauing, and kind of, this is all I know, and just the same shit over and over. You know what I mean? And I was
yeah,
thrust at 40 years old into a whole new situation, and I had to learn everything again. And it was very good for me. And I'm very grateful to all my friends in China that helped me to get to where I am today. So I can see, like, really good things happening in China too, not just the effects of what I mean, like the effects, internal effects in China. I can see a lot of good things happening, kind of a renaissance of ideas and technology, but not guided by a despotic regime, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I really one thing I've always loved about you and your channel, and then hanging out with you is your optimism, and I like that vision, and maybe we'll be out there, you and I hanging out there one day.
Good.
I love that.
Sounds good. I'll take you around. Yeah. No, the place is, oh, dude, Shanghai at night, you won't even believe it. Have you ever seen the Shanghai night view?
I've seen the pictures, but not never in person, obviously.
Oh, okay. You've seen like the Bund and stuff. Oh man,
Yeah, yeah,
it really is. If you live there, I lived there for 10 years, and it's like, I never got tired of it. It's so beautiful. Like, and Hong Kong too. Hong Kong's unbelievable. Like, taking the Star Ferry, although they just closed it, I heard. But the Star Ferry across to Hong Kong Island, dude, it's so beautiful. You won't believe it. You're like, I can tell you like words, but they don't suffice. And there's so many interesting things in China. I took Trans-Siberian all across Mongolia and China, Russia, and went out to Western China a lot. China, what a lot of people don't know, some of the most interesting things are way out near Duzhongyan, that area, and down by basically down by the Chinese space program in
oh, okay.
yeah, in Zhochuan, yeah, out there. It's like, there's history, the beginning of the Great Wall. There's all the Chinese grottos, and like, basically dug out of hillsides, cliffs. Like,
Yeah,
ancient buildings and writings and poems, and oh man, the place is really wonderful. China is really an interesting place. It's a fascinating place. You know, it is, and the people are fascinating too. It's like, I think, I just, my own theory, but I think learning the characters is so difficult for young kids that it increases the intelligence. Just learning them increases the intelligence of the population because it's so much more difficult than learning the English language.
oh, okay. The language itself being more challenging.
Yeah, yeah, because there's like, tens of thousands of 40,000 characters, and you got to learn a hell of a lot of those. I mean, to read paper, you don't need to know. You need to know probably 5,000 fluently.
Okay.
Uh, but
Shit.
but to read books and to be able to write and to be, to be literate, you really need to know a lot of characters, and that in itself, I think, enlarges a part of your brain, and it makes you. There's a lot of people who have said this in history, but I tend to believe it. I don't put that much stock in it, but I always wonder why the people are so sharp. When I'm debating in China, I tell you, there's some sharp minds there. I'll tell you that. They really are.
I
There, there,
believe
there is some sharp bastards there, and you're like competing with them, and you're like, fuck.
it. I 100% believe it. Yeah. But yeah, so we talked about accountability. We talked about U.S. technology being requisitioned or stolen by China. We went over China-Taiwan relations, talked a little bit about China as a whole, and your thoughts on China and possible future of the U.S.-China relations, and talked a little bit about artificial intelligence in this talk. I think overall, man, this has been a really good discussion and recording stream, whatever you want to call it. Do you have anything else you want to discuss for this one, or any closing thoughts?
That it's been great. Thank you very much because I think I talked a little bit too much, and thank you for,
No, no, man, you're great. Now,
thank,
I mean, I had one other subject if you want to keep going to possibly talk
yeah,
about, or we can get into it
I'd
at
love
a
to.
later.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was something you talked about earlier, and kind of in closing, it is veterans related, military related, is kind of substance abuse, and you had said that you had worked with some people in Japan, in the military in Japan, on that, and one of the reasons I bring it up, I mean, there's a lot of substance abuse, a lot of people with addiction and problems in the general population, but my experience in the military, and not personally, and also dealing with a lot of veterans, is there definitely seems to be a large amount of substance abuse going on, addiction, and I was just curious as to what your thoughts on that, why that might be, and or your experience dealing with veterans in that aspect.
I don't really have a theory as if it's different than the general population, because I can't really, like, I didn't work with a bunch of young guys, young men in a similar situation that weren't in the military. So I can't say for sure what is different. Let me think hard on this one.
Well, and there might not be any difference, but I was, it just curious as if you thought there was, because I know you've dealt with people with issues in the general population,
Yep.
or maybe there is no difference between the military and the civilians. To me, but it could be my bias from being in the military. It just seems like I've just dealt with a lot of friends, family, and fellow service members that have dealt with addiction problems, and just curious if you have any insight on that, or if you think that's just a human nature thing, or maybe the military accelerates that or promotes it in any way.
Um, let's see. Well, I mean,
And,
without a
and it is kind of a big topic, so I kind of hit you with all this right at the end.
no, it's fine. I think one thing I often saw, like, let's say when we'd go to the meeting in Yokosuka, and then I'd be hanging out with the guys afterwards, watch a movie or whatever, and we'd have, kind of meeting after the meeting, and then I would come through on the way home. I went through what's called the haunch, and the haunch is like all the
Yeah.
bars, all the bars out front. It's like a little walking area where, everybody goes and parties off base. And I definitely saw, a lot of guys getting drunk in groups. There's no doubt, there's no doubt about that. And that is definitely encouraged, obviously at some level. I don't know if it's much as historically has been, but definitely like camaraderie and, forming those group bonds is encouraged. And young guys, they're getting drunk and they're having fun. And I think
Yeah.
I think that is definitely encouraged. And I know, military guys in Japan in particular tend to get lonely, because they're culturally, they're not in their comfort zone, right? And so
Sure.
there's a certain type that's like me that adapts real quickly and becomes kind of like hanging out with locals. But that's a very small percentage of the population, actually. Generally, the guys are very lonely at U.S. military bases, and that makes them more susceptible to drinking and taking drugs, because just, you don't have your mom, you don't have your friends, you don't have, uh, the same, like you don't have the big turkey, and you don't have a lot of things,
Yeah.
like when you're young, like when you say you're 19 or whatever, fucking Thanksgiving's pretty important for a lot of people, like for me, when I moved to Asia, like the holidays is when I would feel lonely, you know, so like Christmas,
Okay.
yeah, like Christmas or Thanksgiving, 4th of July. And so what we ended up doing as expats is we would make, we would have like a big dinner. Somebody would get a bunch of chickens. We would roast them like turkeys. And we'd make do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd make do. And sometimes we'd go to, once in a while, we'd pay for a hotel and do like a $60 Thanksgiving feast. But it never was that fun, actually. The funniest thing was always to make do. And then also the bars were full of expats kind of enjoying
Yeah.
talking about 4th of July stuff, maybe having like a flag on or wearing something, and definitely like those periods are lonely for soldiers overseas, and they are for non-soldiers too. But I think soldiers especially because they don't choose to go overseas. They didn't choose to go to Japan. They just joined the military. And next thing you know, they're in fucking Japan, right? And they don't
Yeah.
want to.
Get stationed there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sent there, and they don't know when they're going to be sent home. And some of them they really like it, and then they get sent home, and they're bummed out. And there's a lot of military guys that I meet that are, I was hanging out with this guy who was turns out he's a bigwig in the Las Vegas government, and we were talking and stuff, and then he started talking about Japan when he was a young soldier. Man, he had incredible memories. Like
Oh,
the
right.
best memories of his entire life in Japan. And so we talked all night. It was really cool. So I think that it's a mixed bag with military guys. Depends on where you get stationed. It depends on your luck, really. If you get stationed near Tokyo, you're going to be pretty damn happy, probably. In the end, you know.
Yeah.
But if you get stationed in a real small town or in a unwelcoming situation, can be rough. I think military guys in general, uh, the guys that I talk to, like the friends I've made, a lot of them didn't join the military or really wanted to be a soldier that much. Even a lot of them, it was a choice kind of for a career. You know,
Okay.
it was kind of like, hey, my town, there wasn't much. I didn't go to college or, whatever. This was the best thing I could do. So I did this. And they really didn't know what they're getting into, some guys, you know. So I think there's a lot of guys too that don't like the, what do you call it? Like, there's a lot of guys in the military are basically in hell because they just think it's so stupid. They don't
Okay.
they don't like the way things are run, and they're basically just going insane, in the military. And then
Yeah.
those
They can be
really,
lower ranked, not have the power to influence or change their situation.
I think so. I think generally I would have to say probably, and they just basically hate the military, but they're in the military. Those guys are very susceptible to heavy drinking.
Uh, okay. I think we
Sorry.
lost Ronan here.
Yeah. Sorry. Because they're just not happy, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was my friend calling. He's probably going to call one more time. But yeah,
Right on.
yeah. I can't. I'm not going to. If I go away from the app, I lose the call. So I'll just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
If I send
Yeah.
it-
No. Those are great points. And it is. There's no one reason. I just was interested in your thoughts on it. I think the loneliness plays a big part, like you said. Where their experience with their unit, where they deployed, did they deploy to a combat zone versus somewhere a little bit more safe, just different experiences. So yeah, I've yeah, that's a good point. So
I think there's there's a lot of guys who there's a lot of military jobs that aren't that great, you know. So anytime you're in a job that you don't like, and you're like military guys, they can't get out of it. You know, they'll be court martialed. You know, they can't just quit like another job. You know.
Yeah, while they're under contract at least. Yeah.
Right. Right. So definitely you have that kind of unhappiness, and you have a strict hierarchy. You have a lot of rules. You're, the justice system for military guys is much more harsh than for everybody else. You know.
It definitely can be. It's
Oh yeah.
a little more streamlined. When they want to nail you to the wall, they can.
Yeah, I mean, it can be brutal. You know, like a lot of the guys that went to the meetings in Japan, I don't even think they were alcoholics, but they just got caught drunk and driving once. And then
Oh, okay.
next thing
Yeah.
you know, they got to go through this whole program. Everybody I know drank and drive when they were a kid. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like
Here.
I don't even have a friend or a family relative that did. You know, at least once. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Pretty
like
common. Pretty common.
yeah, and then in the military, you just all of a sudden you're forced to go to this program. You know, it's yeah, I don't know. I think the
Well,
guys that
that's a good point too, because I've seen it personally where that someone may not be actually be a heavy drinker or quote unquote technically have a problem, and like they get a DWI in the military, and all of a sudden it's this career ending thing, and this the end of the world, the command's freaking out, and then all of a sudden, like you said, they're in counseling and therapy when they may not actually have a problem, but they happen to get a DWI. So, but I guess that's some people might say if you get a DWI, you got a problem. I don't know. I think sometimes it's situational, bad luck,
totally,
things like that.
yeah, that's bullshit. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. You know, everybody fucking drinks. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
big fucking deal. I think there's too many fake alcoholics these days. Yeah, everybody's a fucking victim. Everybody's got a problem. I mean, if you got a problem, you got to face up to it. But it's like,
yeah.
no, everybody doesn't have a fucking problem. And the thing is too is I read that something like 50% of kids are diagnosed with 56 of Generation Z with some kind of depression or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's, I
Yeah.
you know I don't know, man. I think these institutions they taking this shit too seriously in a way. You know, AIDS just started out like the programs in general was just one guy helping another guy. There was no
Mhm.
penalty. It was just one dude, like me helping you or you helping me. You know, there was nobody going to jail. There was just two guys helping each other, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what it's based on. At the end of the day, anything that really helps you is always like that. You look at anytime you had a class, you kicked ass. It's because you like the teacher. You know what I mean? And he helps you or a coach, right? It's all man to man. Some guy helping you. You know, and that's what really does it. It's not rules. It's not institutions. It's always this one guy reaching out, giving a fuck, and helping you. You know. So I think that's been lost in the military. When it comes like now, it's just this, it's a sanitized, institutionalized fucking labeling, and then you're this, you're that, you got to do this and that. You know, anybody like me who's a rebel, fuck man, that's like gas. You know, that's like a torch, blow torch to a pyromaniac. It's not good. You know. Now as I gotten older, I've gotten mellowed out. But when I was young, man, I stuff like that I just could not fucking stand. You know. You know.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, like with the military in particular, with to actually help somebody and want it, let's just say they do have a problem or whatever, an alcohol or substance abuse issue, to actually help somebody and work through their issue or problem takes time. And a lot of times, the military and the command, they just want to check that box and, get you through whatever the fuck they say they got to get you through and get it, we need to get this guy through this program and get it over with so we can move on. But, life ain't always that way. Sometimes it takes more time with certain people.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure some of the best U.S. soldiers in history, they could have the Medal of Honor, are total drunks. You know, like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely a history of that.
I mean,
But
look at great writers. look, I would guess great soldiers. There's a lot of guys, they got their demons, right? They're fucking dealing with it. I'm not an institutionalized guy. I don't like that shit. I like things that help me, but I'm not into this labeling everybody this and everybody. No, you gotta figure it out on your own. Like a lot of shit in AA and stuff. I don't fucking believe. I am not definitely a shining example of believing everything that's spouted. I have my own opinions about stuff for sure. But at the same time, man, I fucking will do anything to help somebody. And that's what makes the difference. At least in my experience. If you really want to change someone's life, you got to give a fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a complicated. We went through a smorgasbord of definitely deep subjects and complicated topics that are not easily put into a box or a cookie cutter. So, and I appreciate those. I think we've had a really good discussion today, and I appreciate you joining me, man.
Let me say one last thing about the military and stuff.
Sure.
If you want to help guys in the military, just go talk to them. You know what I mean? I don't think the military should get more involved in their lives with this stuff. I think they're too involved, to be honest. They're too involved. Like, just go help some guys. Just give a shit and help some young military guys. And
yeah.
they're already going through enough shit, going to war, going over here, doing this. They don't need labels, and they might have stuff to talk about, and it might take time, and they might make changes, decide they need to make changes. But to each his own. He's man enough to go to fucking war for you. You know what I mean? Like he can decide what he needs to do on this other thing too. Like nobody's perfect, but I think giving a little more autonomy to these guys and maybe letting some more meetings in, just regular guys like me just want to go in and talk to people. Just welcoming that kind of thing would be something the military could do. Making more connection with the civilians is something they could do.
I agree 100% on that. Be there, and if anyone who watches this, whether you're in the military or not, you got friends, family in the military, just the vets may or may not want to talk right now, but at some point, just be there to listen and give them the support I mean, there's obviously, like in any population, there are vets that are assholes, and there's assholes in every group in society, but so some of them you may not want to help, but they're, I don't know, I just say when they're ready to accept the help or just need somebody, a shoulder to cry on or ear, if you got an ear to listen, then just be there. That's something simple like that, it can make a world of difference.
True. They got enough guys telling them what to do. They need someone to listen,
Yeah. Or just even somebody to vent to, something that simple.
Yep.
I mean, that makes a big difference too. What in my position that I'm in now, basically it's a senior leadership position, but a lot of what I do is what me and some other fellow senior leaders call daddy daycare in a way, but
okay.
A lot of it though is, and that's kind of, I don't know, it might be, hopefully I don't sound too derogatory, but it's
humor.
Yeah, a lot of it's just listening to soldiers and trying to help them solve their problems. And sometimes all they need is just to vent a little bit, and then that's all they wanted to do was just express their concerns and then move on,
Yep. That's what's missing. They're young guys. I think that's the number one thing. They're young guys, full of testosterone. They've got guns.
Yeah.
They're being trained to kill people. I mean, fuck, man, it is not easy, man. In some ways, what they're training them to do doesn't even make any sense by today's standards, right? So they're really in a crossroads of history, really.
Oh yeah.
And then they don't get any sympathy for it. You know what I mean? It's fucking, look at the guys in Vietnam when they came home. There was no gratitude. That's what fucked them up the most. Nobody cared, right? No, there was no parades. Nobody cared, and they were just seen as drug addicted criminals, you know. And guess
Yeah.
what? You if you call a man something like that and you treat him like that, you know, is he going to go to Harvard? Is he going to invent the new fucking, you know what I mean? you know,
Yeah. No,
wireless
it's.
remote thing, no,
I will say one other thing too, like I a lot of veterans I've talked to, some of them kind of get they might say that they don't really they get embarrassed, or I've had a few say that they don't think that the thank yous that they get or the welcome homes that they get from like people who haven't served or general population, some of them will discount it, but publicly. But I do think, from my perspective, and then seeing, like, dealing with my dad and stuff, he was a Vietnam vet. I do think it matters. Sometimes it may be, and yeah, there may be people that it is a hollow gesture, but even something as simple as, hey, thank you for your service. It still means something to me, and I appreciate it. Like my dad, since he was a Vietnam vet, he didn't get that type of shit. He got the exact opposite when he came home from Vietnam, like you're mentioning. And in the 80s, they started to have some welcome home parades, and I remember going to one of those with him as a kid, and it meant a lot to him. Just being thanked and welcomed home. So.
Yeah, I'm more for like making friends. I don't
Yeah.
go up to strangers and say that. I never do that because to me it's an empty gesture. But to me,
Yeah.
making friends, reaching out, hanging out, helping them out, going on trips, that's the stuff to me that I think is really what makes the difference. Is like just making friends with them. Just inviting them. Hey, there's that guy. We're having to get together. And then he'll probably can't come because he got to go do something. But you invite him, and then when he can come, it's funny. We used to have a camp out at Tama Lodge. It's a recreational military base in Japan. There's no military. It's just recreation, golf, horses, hiking, camping. And we went out there. There's a restaurant, and we went out there twice a year. I think we had an event there, and it was just really great because it was like probably 2/3 military guys, a third uh, civilians, like expats, and we just had a great time all the time. And those guys would happily book it for us. And there was only one dickhead. This one dickhead got kicked out of the restaurant. He got
Oh,
kicked
yeah.
off the base. Yeah, because he was this know-it-all guy. He was always ordering everybody around. And, like the waitresses around. Everybody hated him. And then he got on the base. He got all pissed out because they messed his order up. And the guy said, "Sir, we ask you to leave this facility," and they meant the whole fucking base. And I loved it, man. It was great. Oh, it was great. The military took care of that guy. The Chinese never had the balls to do it, or they didn't. They just didn't do it. But they're like, "Nope, get the fuck out, son."
Yeah,
But
that genuine, a genuine, like you said, fellowship and friendship, that definitely has more meaning, and yeah, is always appreciated.
yeah, like I hope, like a lot of, I hope more and more military guys come to the summits, because I think they'll really enjoy them, because
Oh
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
real good chance. It's kind of like that kind of thing. Like everybody gets together, make friends, and for all signs point towards friends for life. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who are good friends now through the summits, right?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I 100% agree, and I, I I met tons of great people at the summits I've been to, and yeah, there's been I guess the majority of people there weren't in the military, but it's always been a great mix of people, and I love getting new ideas, different perspectives, and just fresh perspectives on things.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. It was great to have you, man, and your questions and the way you kind of seeded discussions and got things going, and your struggle, after the military and stuff. I think everybody they really took to you too, So it was really, yeah, it was great to have you, and
That's
and
great.
opening your house and stuff.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
and I plan on being at more in the future. So.
well, I I'm gonna do one more before I leave. I don't know where it's gonna be, but I'm doing one. Either it's gonna be at Pebble Beach, or in DC, or in Canada, or wherever we get a house. I got to decide within the next week, and then I'm gonna announce it, and then I'll go to Thailand.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
working
let
on
me
my
know,
plan
man.
for my retirement visa. So once I get
Right on.
the paper, then I just got to get one more paper and one thing from my bank, and boom, put it in, done. 3 weeks later, I'll have my visa. So it's kind of working out perfect. I'll get the visa. I'll be back in Asia, and the theme of this one is going to be like basically how to move abroad. So we'll have regular discussions like we always do. You know how it is.
Yeah, yeah,
It'll be a regular
yeah.
stuff in many ways, but we're gonna definitely have a focus on, guys that want to try something brand new. They want to. Kind of the theme is get inoculated against Western women. So like a vaccine for the chicks here, because once you see some bunch of sweethearts overseas, it definitely changes your opinion on where you want to live and what you want to do and what you're willing to put up with. And it's a good inoculation. So if you don't like vaccines, you might like this one.
Cool, man. Yeah, keep me posted, brother. So,
All right.
hey, man, it's been a great discussion. Appreciate it, and I'll be in touch, my friend.
Dude, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Ronin. Appreciate it.
See you later. Bye.